say you want peace. You say you want comfort. But let me ask you something. Is peace what you truly crave, or is it just the absence of challenge? Be honest. When was the last time you were uncomfortable and didn't run, not distracted yourself, not numbed it, not scrolled past it, faced it? You see, most people don't crave peace. They crave emotional safety. A cage disguised as calm, a quiet life built not on courage, but on avoidance. You stay in the job that drains your soul because at least it's stable. You hold on to friendships that don't see you because it's better than being alone. You shrink your voice, your wants, your wildness because it's not worth the fight. This isn't peace. This is fear with better branding. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And that's exactly what comfort lets you do. Avoid, delay, sedate. You tell yourself you're safe, but what you really are is sedated. Because growth, real growth, it feels like war. It shakes the walls you thought were holding you up. It burns the stories you told yourself just to get through the night. It forces you to meet the parts of you that comfort buried a long time ago. And the longer you stay in that safety, the weaker your voice gets, the more passive your fire becomes. Until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back. When did I start disappearing? You didn't. You traded yourself for the illusion of peace. So the question isn't, are you safe? The real question is, are you alive? Because safety can't give you purpose, and comfort won't build your power. Only discomfort will introduce you to who you really are. Comfort isn't passive, it's strategic. You built it, brick by brick, day by day, fear by fear. Not because you were weak, but because once, maybe many times, you were hurt. Someone left without explanation. Someone punished you for crying. Someone made you feel like being too much meant being unlovable. So you learned how to quiet your needs, how to blend in, how to avoid becoming a problem. You learned survival, but the cost of that survival was your authenticity. And little by little, you made a deal with yourself. If I feel less, I hurt less. If I expect less, I lose less. It worked for a while. You built a world made of soft cushions and low expectations. You called it peace. You called it stability. But really, it was silence. A silence that screamed underneath every smile. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of yourself you exile in order to be accepted. But what happens when those parts aren't just repressed, but forgotten? You don't just lose your voice, you lose your hunger. You don't just lose your fire, you forget you ever had one. Avoidance becomes your identity. You tell people you're chill, easygoing, not too emotional. But inside, you're screaming into a void of your own design, because safety, unchecked, turns into self-erasure. You dream of love, but flinch at intimacy. You want truth, but recoil when it challenges you. You crave purpose, but live in loops you already know how to survive. You're not choosing comfort, you're choosing familiarity. And familiarity is the enemy of freedom. The problem isn't that you're not growing, it's that you're afraid of what growth would cost. Because growth demands a death. Death of who you pretended to be. Death of your good girl, good boy persona. Death of your silent agreements with mediocrity. And that death is terrifying. So instead, you stay in the same habits, with the same people, in the same stories, because at least it's not chaos. But here's the twist. Comfort is chaos, just the quiet kind. It doesn't explode, it corrodes, day by day. It softens your edge, it dulls your instincts, until one day you forget what it felt like to want more than this. That's the real cost of emotional safety. It doesn't protect you, it prevents you. Prevents you from becoming who you were meant to be. Prevents you from speaking with a voice that might shake the room. Prevents you from living a life that's actually yours. So if it all feels heavy, It's because you were never meant to carry it alone. And maybe, just maybe, discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your invitation to wake up, to rise, to return. You didn't choose to become numb. You just got tired of being hurt. At first, you told yourself it was temporary. I just need a break. I just need to not care for a little while. But days turned into habits, and habits turned into personality. Now people say you're calm, low drama, detached, and you nod because it sounds like a compliment. But inside, you don't feel calm. You feel disconnected. Disconnected from the pain, sure, but also from the joy, from the hunger, from the risk, from yourself. Because numbness doesn't discriminate. When you shut down to avoid pain, you also shut down your capacity for everything else. This is where emotional safety turns into emotional starvation. Carl Jung warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and that includes the parts you've trained yourself not to feel. That rage you swallow every time someone crosses a boundary, that grief you hide behind humor, that longing you call independence. You've mastered the art of being fine. You say, it is what it is, like it's wisdom, when really, it's a quiet resignation. But deep down, something inside you remembers what it felt like to want with your whole chest, to love without checking for exit signs, to speak your truth without editing it for someone else's comfort. That version of you didn't die. They just got silenced. And the longer you ignore them, the louder their absence becomes. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Numb isn't neutral. It's heavy. It's suffocating. And it leaves you half alive, half present in your relationships, half committed to your dreams, half trusting of your own instincts. You don't say what you mean. You don't ask for what you need. You don't take the shot when it's open, because some part of you has convinced the rest. It's safer not to feel. But safe for who? For the child you once were, maybe, but not for the adult you're trying to become. You weren't born numb. You became that way, which means you can become otherwise. But first, you have to admit that this isn't working, that the peace you've built is costing too much, that being fine is not the same as being free. If you're still here, you're not just watching, you're remembering. And if this voice feels like it's speaking your truth, it's because part of you has been waiting to hear it. So subscribe, not for me, but for the version of you that's waking up, the one who's tired of being numb, the one who knows this silence isn't peace. This isn't about content, it's about coming home. And this is just the beginning. You say you want to feel again, to come back to yourself, to stop drifting through life like a ghost. But here's the part you don't say out loud. You're terrified of what feeling might unleash. Because you haven't just locked the door on pain, you've welded it shut. You've convinced yourself that if you ever open it, everything will flood out. The grief, the rage, the shame, the truth, and it'll drown you. So you stay where it's dry, where it's safe, where it's empty. Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And the pain you've been avoiding all these years, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't fade. It waits. It shows up in the arguments you replay after midnight, in the moments you feel hollow after laughing, in the quiet panic that creeps in when everything is finally okay. That pain is your teacher, but you've treated it like an enemy, because somewhere along the way, you learned that emotions make you weak, that crying is failure, that wanting too much is embarrassing, that softness is dangerous. So instead of healing, you hardened. You got strong in all the wrong ways. But what if your strength isn't in holding it together? What if it's in letting go? What if the tears you fight back are the thing that would finally set you free? What if the sadness you numb is the doorway back to your joy? What if anger, grief, fear aren't problems to solve, but messages you were never taught to read? You don't need to be afraid of feeling again. What you need is to stop fearing your own aliveness. Because numbness might be safe, but feeling is true. And truth is what heals. Not overnight, not all at once, but slowly, like thawing, like remembering. You don't need to force it. You don't need to dig. You just need to stop running, to sit still long enough to hear what your body's been whispering for years. I never needed you to fix me. I needed you to listen. And if you can do that, even for a moment, you've already started coming back. There's a fire in you. You don't talk about it anymore. Hell, you barely remember it. But it's there. It always was. It's the part of you that used to speak without asking for permission, that dreamed out loud, that burned too hot for a world that preferred you quiet, small, polite. So over time, you smothered it. You called it growing up. You called it maturity. But let's be honest, it was fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of losing the little love you thought you had. So you buried your fire under smiles, under agreements you didn't mean, under relationships that needed you to dim your light so they could shine. And the more you complied, the more it worked. On the outside, people liked you more. Things got easier. You became predictable, controllable, acceptable. But inside, you faded. You used to feel. Now you calculate. You used to want. Now you wait. You used to lead. Now you follow the rules you didn't write. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming who you are means burning through who you're not. And fire by nature destroys. That's what nobody tells you about healing. It will cost you the life built on suppression, the job, the relationship, the identity that survived by silencing your inner voice. You can't reclaim your fire and stay comfortable. You can't stand in your truth and keep playing it safe. And you damn sure can't wake up if you're still pretending to sleep. You want your power back? It's not in perfection. It's in honesty. It's in saying no when your voice shakes. It's in leaving the room when it's killing you. It's in being too loud, too raw, too real. Because that fire, the one you buried, it's not just rage, it's life. It's your desire to exist on your own terms, and it doesn't want revenge. It wants reclamation. Reclaim the hours you lost pretending. Reclaim the years you spent apologizing for your needs. Reclaim the love you withheld from yourself while waiting for someone else to give it to you. You're not too much. You're just not edited anymore. And yes, it will scare people. It will cost you comfort, fake peace, and approval from those who never saw the real you. But what you get in return is everything. Your voice, your edge, your fucking fire. So no, comfort won't give you that. Only the courage to come back to yourself will. And when you do, you don't just survive, you burn again. So now what? You've seen the comfort for what it really is. A beautifully decorated cage. A graveyard for dreams you forgot you buried. You've touched the numbness and heard the quiet scream underneath it. You've met the fire you thought you lost and realized it's been waiting for you this whole time. So what do you do now? You stop negotiating with fear. You stop asking for permission to be whole, to be messy, to be alive. Because the truth is this: no one's coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your therapist, not even this video. Only you can walk yourself out of the comfort that's become your coffin. And no, it won't feel good. It won't feel clean, but it will feel real. You'll tremble the first time you speak without editing yourself. You'll cry harder than you thought possible when you finally say, "I can't pretend anymore." You'll feel lost, raw, exposed. But that's what rebirth feels like. Carl Jung didn't promise healing would be peaceful. He promised it would be transformational. You don't walk through the shadow to escape pain. You walk through it to meet who you were before the world told you who to be. And once you see them, once you hear their voice clearly, there's no going back. You'll feel it in your gut when you're shrinking. You'll taste it in your throat when you're silencing yourself. You'll know, this isn't me anymore. Because now you've remembered. And with memory comes responsibility. You can't unsee the fire. You can't unknow your truth. You can't renumb what's been reawakened. So don't go back to comfort. Don't sell out your aliveness for approval. Don't trade freedom for familiarity. Let it burn. Let it scare people. Let it make noise. Let it break every old rule you followed to survive. Because survival isn't the point anymore. Sovereignty is. Power is. Wholeness is. Truth is. You didn't come this far just to feel better. You came to feel everything. To reclaim your voice. To rebuild your boundaries. To rewrite the story where you were always the one waiting. And finally, you stop waiting. Because now, there's no more pretending. No more silence in exchange for belonging. No more shrinking in exchange for safety. Safety is no longer the goal. Being fully alive is. And being alive means risking judgment, failure, misunderstanding, but also love, connection, purpose, freedom.